New this week from Monomythic Media, World War Comic, issue number 1, written by Kevin Garcia, art by Reynaldo Garza. As you can clearly tell, I am not in my normal environs. I am visiting my mom and her animal figurines. Happy early Thanksgiving. World War Comics is a bold new indie comic from Monomythic Media and magnanimous comic book historian here on TikTok and beyond, Mr. Kevin Garcia. The premise that drew me to this unique retrospective blend of superhero and historical media is the opportunity to re-examine, recontextualize, and elevate niche or simply forgotten Golden Age comic book characters. World War Comics is a platform for an engaging modern superhero tale, pulling reference from historical events, of course, but is also a means for these foundational or ahead-of-their-time characters to finally shine. If you have been a fan of any of the grandiose big superhero teams like the Avengers, the Justice League, the Authority, or the Seven even, then this comic is a fascinating look at the common origins of the kinds of characters that all of those teams are composed of. Kevin Garcia has certainly tapped a poignant narrative vein, as it is surprisingly interesting being able to view these kinds of characters with nearly a century of comic book media and hindsight at our disposal, and to be able to consider the potential influence of these characters had they become popular. Moreover, it is just kind of tickling to be able to see the often blunt depictions of the more far-reaching character concepts, dealing with magic or science that clearly became more refined as technology developed in real life. I was fortunate enough to participate in the Kickstarter for this wonderful project, which came with some wonderfully clever character card rewards, which have been really fun to explore, read, and gain more context to these characters, as well as stickers for the variant covers, all of which are very fun. I think this one's definitely my favorite, though. Can't wait to find a good way to display these alongside this iconic issue number 1 because I liked it that much. As I said, each of these cards comes with various contextual information such as backstories, power levels, some fun facts. However, Garcia didn't leave new readers in the dark without any of this bonus material, as the back pages of World War Comic issue number 1 hosts a gallery of first appearance comics and historical information for each of the characters featured in this first issue. Furthermore, Garcia includes suggested reading for the classic issues of each of these characters, which is immensely helpful for comic book readers who want to get into a classic comic reading list. Also, the latter half of this comic features a script-to-page breakdown for some of the early panels of this first issue, which is an immensely helpful resource for people who want to get into comic book writing. All of these thoughtful facets make World War Comics a delightful, passionate package of a comic, which feels like a true love letter to the medium of comic books from its earliest days to the modern era, looking into the future as much as it delves into the past. I keep forgetting that we're up in the mountains and it's harder to breathe. Let's talk more specifically about World War Comic issue number 1, which means minor plot spoilers ahead. As is the case for all of my indie comic book reviews, I don't want to delve too far into spoiler territory, as I want you to check out this book for yourself and support the difficult business of indie comic book publication, but I still want to give you an idea of what to expect from this fledgling title. The structure of the story for World War Comics is, ironically, exactly what it is, a retrospective look at the golden age of superheroes and the devastating world war that engulfed the planet in the 1940s. Presented as a series of interviews from an initially anonymous entity, we dance between past and present, as our famous heroes recount their exploits in the bitter conflict, as we simultaneously get an idea of who they are now. The manner in which each of these heroes is introduced to us feels seamless, each appearance building and informing upon the last with moments for humor as well as poignant drama. Cleverly, the shift between past and present is visually achieved by presenting the World War II scenes in a black and white grayscale style, juxtaposed with the modern full-color scenes. It is an effective, logical depiction that gives the reader a subtle sense of scale and scope for this expansive story, as our characters reflect somberly on the chaos of that bygone era. One of the aspects I appreciate most about this comic is that the look back into World War II, an objectively horrifying and important era in history, is viewed through the lens of comic book media history rather than trying to be overtly realistic or fastidious hilariously historically accurate. Thus, we see that the World War II that these characters experienced was also filled with supervillains, monsters, gods, and other heroes created at the time, which again adds an engaging sense of depth to their backstories. That being said, these characters still refer to and remember the events of the war in a sobering, haunted way that makes them more grounded and relatable to us as the reader. After this introductory interview, we cut to events happening in the modern era, as we see a band of superheroes known as the New All-Allies battling with the villainous Zorro the Purple Zombie, who has somehow infiltrated the nation's capital for an unknown, nefarious purpose. Battle with Zorro introduces us to new members of the team, namely Blue Fury and Streak, who were not featured in the interview portions. This issue lays the groundwork for a vast history to be explored for each member of our team, while hinting at important interpersonal relationships between them. What makes issue number 1 so great to me is the diverse characterization of each featured character from a writing standpoint, as well as visually and aesthetically. For instance, I have already fallen in love with the hilariously simple named Dr. Science, who literally exists on a vacillating wavelength of time alongside our own, and therefore sees time and events in a completely different context to his counterparts. Also get some wonderful moments from our powerhouse Wonder Woman-esque god character Farian, who seems to still be adjusting to modernity after being awoken from her ancient slumber to aid humanity in the war. If you were concerned from the premise of this comic that it would be too bare bones or overly academic, then the latter half of this comic puts those fears to rest as we settle into the group dynamics of the New All-Allies team and their place in the modern world like a classic Justice League issue, while hinting at untold stories from certain members that may become more important in the future. World War comic number 1 is a thoughtful, epic, insightful addition to the entire superhero canon, with some surprising twists and turns in this first issue that made me invested in the story of this comic rather than just the concept. Please support this historic comic by visiting kevingarcia.com or monomythicmedia.com, where the book will be available very soon. Keep checking out Kevin Garcia's channel here on TikTok. It is very insightful. He covers a broad range of comic book topics that you may very well be interested in. I hope that this is a reminder to support indie comics like this. There's a vast, wonderful world of comics outside of the big 2 properties. Go on Kickstarter, go on Gumroad, go on Reddit even. There's lots of comics available to you that will actually help support small creators. Just wanted to give you a better look at this amazing cover from Freddie Lopez Jr. that gives you a sense of the unique characters that are a part of this comic, as well as their epic adventures. And thank you again for watching another indie comic review. What are some other indie comics that I should check out? Let me know in the comments.